Go ahead, Sid. Sorry.
Welcome to this Friday edition of Second City Sports Live and in living color on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with Miss Lakeena McGee, I am Sidney Brown. And you can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Sports Zone Chicago. You can watch this podcast live via Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages. Once again, at Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, live on Facebook and live on YouTube. And you can follow our audio version of this podcast at Simply at War Media. That's on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at WAR Media. And we are also on War on Anchor. Lakeena, we have a star-studded show today, and we kicking it off with a great friend of the program who kicked this program off to start the year. Introduce him to us.
Well, he's a college football Hall of Famer from UCLA. He's also a three-time Super Bowl champ for the San Francisco 49ers. And he's a longtime CBS Sports Network college football analyst at Randy Cross FB on Twitter. He is Randy Cross. Randy, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Doing really, how bad can it be? Football is actually, well, it hasn't really started. You always think it started once they start practicing. Then they play a preseason game, and you say, "Yeah, that's right. It's not really started yet."
All right, so we got a lot to get to with Randy. So, Randy, we'll do pro first, and then get that out the way. We'll start with the Bears, of course. Do you think Justin Fields will be the starter by, we'll say, week 4, or do you think it will be later on in the season, or will he even start at this point this year?
Yeah, who knows what that learning curve is? The only ones that really do know that are the guys that are evaluating the tape from practice. I think we've all come to realize sort of what you see in the preseason is pretty vanilla. What people run, everyone figures they're hiding something, like nobody knows what they do, and everybody is very familiar with your playbook, but they're still delusional. The only ones that aren't delusional are the rookie quarterbacks, because they only know what they know. And so far, he's getting his head filled pretty good. I think Ryan Day and them set him up pretty well, as did the folks at Georgia, as far as to be able to assimilate this offense. I would expect him at some point. It's kind of a when you're ready. I don't think there's anything wrong with, kind of like in San Francisco, everyone's slobbering over Trey Lance. But, I think you'd also look at that situation kind of like Chicago and say, look, we'll get some situations where we can maybe get him in the game and get him some reps if possible. But, I'd say, best case is probably the first month or so of the season. He and Lawrence are probably the most ready to go kind of plug and play guys, I think. And maybe Zach Wilson, but how much of that is the Jets kind of fooling themselves? I don't know.
Speaking of rookie quarterbacks, Randy, of course, all the top guys made their debuts last weekend. In your mind, who had the best performance in limited action last week out of the rookie quarterbacks?
I don't know. I saw 3 or 4 of them. They all had some spectacular plays, which if you looked at this, the 50-yarders or the, that spot dimes about 30 yards down the field, you'd go, man, that guy's ready. Then there's the rest of the plays, which might tell you they've got something to learn. I'll go with the number 1 pick. I thought Lawrence, especially in the context of the Jags, looked pretty solid. Didn't look, because that's the guy that it ain't debatable. It hasn't been debatable from the day he stood on that stage. He is the starter for the Jaguars.
What about Trey Lance over at the 49ers? I know a lot of 49ers fans have been clamoring for him to be the starter. So what do you think his chances are of, being the starter for the season in a very competitive NFC West?
Yeah, it's like, it's no longer, it used to be almost a given if you were going to start a rookie. you were limiting your win total. But now we've seen several examples where that hasn't necessarily been true. It's a matter of what Shanahan and those coaches, how much they want to sort of adjust what they want to do to what Trey Lance is going to be able to execute. And he's got an amazing amount of upside, but he's also got a guy he's competing with that's taken a team to a Super Bowl. So people tend to sort of forget about that part with Jimmy G. It's like, he's always hurt. Well, he also did a pretty good job getting to the Super Bowl. I'm sort of caught in between, to be completely truthful. I'd love to see the kid ready to go, but I've got no problem with Garoppolo starting for as long as he's got to start. If that makes them a better team, that's the number one designation. It's not who eventually will make them good. You've got to start the guy that's got you the best chance to win now, because nobody's got contracts that are so long and so guaranteed that they're not susceptible. Even John Gruden, now that he's 4 years or so into that big deal.
Randy Cross, CBS Sports college football analyst, is joining us right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena here with you. Randy, let's go to Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers and management had the big public rift. It seems like it lasted the entire offseason. Now Aaron Rodgers is back for the 2021 season. Do you think this is his last run in the Green Bay uniform?
Yeah, you'd sure think so. I'll be honest. When all this stuff happened this offseason, I was guessing that he wouldn't be around the beautiful environs of Green Bay, Wisconsin. I thought he'd be in a studio somewhere in Hollywood doing Jeopardy, and mainly because he's got the talent to do it, and the other part of it is because he can. What these guys make these days, you can retire pretty comfortably. But he's got some stuff to do. And I think he's every bit as motivated as he was last year. I mean, they drafted Love to replace him, and he promptly went out and earned an MVP. They've messed with him all offseason long for God knows what reason. Everyone will remember Aaron Rodgers. It may be a trivia question as to who this GM is if you ask the average football fan here in about 12 to 18 months. I don't know. I will err on the side of Aaron Rodgers. I think he's going to have every bit as good a year as he had last year. Jordan Love will be charting plays and watching him. And the Packers have a shot. If you put together a top four, for me, they're in that top four, at least in the NFC side.
Yeah, absolutely. So what about the AFC real quick before we go to college? Who do you think is it the Chiefs and everybody else, or are there any sleepers that you feel like can challenge them in the AFC?
Yeah, I don't know about sleepers. I'd say the whole AFC North is pretty dangerous. Depending on how much Cincinnati and Burrow, how much better they get, because Cleveland's going to be pretty good. Ben and the Steelers are going to be pretty good. They've done a really nice job, I think, all of them, of improving, and it's going to be it'll be a good old days. Remember back in the old days of the Central divisions, especially that AFC Central, where everybody finished 10-6, or everybody finished 9-7, or everybody finished. It's going to be one of those years, I think, for them. But it's Kansas City, and I think the Chargers will give them a pretty good run, as may the Raiders. But Buffalo and Baltimore are right there, outside of that West, especially Buffalo, because they've got the one thing that's hard to allow for, and that's a young quarterback who keeps getting better, as Mahomes has. But, Allen has improved almost every snap, it seems like, but at least every game. And if he keeps on that sort of curve, he's going to make Buffalo, he gives them a chance to get back to where they were last year, and gives them a chance to get over that hump and get into the big one.
Yesterday, Randy, we had the Chargers and the Rams with a joint practice, and of course, head coach John Gruden of the Raiders called off the practice early to get his team off the field because of a couple of skirmishes. Of course, we heard what happened with the New York Giants a couple of weeks ago. Their quarterback Daniel Jones got underneath the pile. How did that happen? I don't know. But you of course, you're a former player. You've been through the wars, and of course, when training camps were actually training camps, they monetized it ever since, thanks to the collective bargaining agreement. But what do you think about these joint practices? And it seems like when you guys played, it wasn't as much operating on the side of quote unquote caution and fear. What do you think about the way way the league is handling training camps today compared to when you played?
Well, I think they've got to do it. I mean, when I first started my rookie year, we had 6 preseason games, and we had a month. That's 1 month, 4 weekends of training camp before we went to the first 4 preseason games.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a little different. I think the combined practices like you're seeing, it's necessary because the preseason games are worthless, basically. But you can get reps in a practice you can't get in a game. You can run stuff in a practice you can't run in a game. I think it's invaluable to these teams, especially now. You know, with a 17 regular and 3 pre, soon to be 18 regular and 2 pre. Eventually just 20 games with a month of these combined practices between teams. I think they're a great idea. The problem is they're at the time of the year when it comes to training camp, everybody's testy. Everybody's edgy. You're tired, you're sore, you're miserable. And suddenly you got somebody that you don't know that's doing stuff that you're not used to. And they're trying to make a team, and they're trying to get the eye of their coaches, and that's just a fight waiting to happen. So, you know, the coaches, the assistant coaches, everybody's got to be on high alert during these things.
Yeah, very scrappy indeed. So let's switch over to college for a second. So this is what you've been doing these last, I think, 15, 20 years. Alabama, big shockers, number 1 in the AP poll. OU, Clemson, and Ohio State, those are your top 4. Do you think that will be the top 4 once we finish the season?
Well, all indications would be that'd be sort of the top 4 teams that should, you know, sort of come out at the beginning, unless somebody in the Pac-12 suddenly, you know, kind of loses their mind and starts playing really, really well. You know, there's a reason that wire-to-wire champs only happen twice out of the AP poll. You know, that's only happened 2 times. Those are 2 pretty amazing teams, but you know, it's not a kiss of death, but you know, Alabama's got some stuff to live up to, and it's all basically because they're or really up to their quarterback, Bryce Young, that if he can play as advertised, and no reason to think that, you know, Tua and Mac and whatnot haven't sort of passed stuff along to him as to how to handle this pressure. They could be everybody's good as they're ranked. They could be the best team in the country, as could, you know, Clemson, with a guy that's got some starting experience at quarterback, that's got a really good defense, that's really, really talented. Ohio State. If I was for me, I'd be tempted to kind of rank either Ohio State or Oklahoma above Alabama or Clemson right now. I just think from a pure talent standpoint, they're there. And maybe Oklahoma, because of Spencer Rattler, will have a little bit of an advantage with the experience. One thing that, you know, Ohio State won't have a quarterback.
Randy Cross, friend of the show and CBS sports analyst for college football, is joining us here live on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena here with you. Randy, you kind of dove into my next question, but I'll ask it anyway, bringing up Spencer Rattler. Also, you have JT Daniels and Bryce Young is one of the other top names that are contenders for the Heisman Trophy this year. If you have a dark horse player who should be on that top 5 list for the Heisman Trophy, who would it be and why?
You know, I don't know. How about anybody that's not a quarterback?
That's true. Fair enough.
I mean, I loved Devontae Smith winning it last year, and basically making them give him the trophy. You know, I would still consider, there's a lot of questions as to, you know, what could happen. Rattler's got the experience, so you've got to really like what he's doing. JT Daniels has got some experience, but, you know, will those coaches at at Georgia kind of get out of his way, because they're used to having a game manager. They're used to having like a scrappy little guy that'll do what he needs to do and will basically execute the game plan. JT Daniels has the ability to be back there and just spinning the devil out of it and throwing that thing all over the field. And I'll be interested to see how those coaches sort of fit him into the game plans and let him do it. Uyunglele has got a really good chance, I think, once he starts playing and people see a guy at 6'5", 240 playing, bringing the term power quarterback into a more of a vernacular. We won't see anybody on the defensive side. That's a fact. We may see a running back, like my guy Bryce out of Iowa State will make a lot of noise. But yeah, reality is it's going to probably go back to the old quarterback grind.
What about your alma mater, UCLA? Is there a lot expected for them in the Pac-12 this year?
I'm not sure how much is expected. I think people expect them to be better. God, I got to think with as much as they're paying Chip, and it's been a few years now, that sort of the power that be, and the power that be's didn't hire him, which is important. I think he's got to win about 8 games this year. I think they got to win about 8 games. You look at it's the best stadium in the country. Sorry, it's just is. It's an unbelievable location. It's beautiful. Everything else. They need a team that's commensurate with their playing conditions, and that's up to the recruiting world. And the reality is, in the recruiting world, my Bruins have been just okay, but they've gotten much better at the line of scrimmage, and I hope that's going to serve them well enough to get them to that 8-win or so level.
Randy, speaking of West Coast football, of course, Oklahoma and Texas looks like they're going to join the ACC in the next coming few years in short order. And both those schools can't get out of the Big 12 fast enough. But there's talks about the Pac-12 and the Big 12, or the Pac-12 and the Big 10 forming a super conference, because like you mentioned earlier with the NFL, it looks like we're going to have an expansion of the college football playoff in the next few years, whether it's probably a 12-team playoff. What do you think about the changing of the guard in college football in terms of these conferences?
Well, it's coming. They're now talking about some sort of an alliance together. The ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12, and the Pac-12. What I would love to see, and I've got no problems with Texas and Oklahoma, grabbing money and doing what they got to do, because that's where the game's going right now. Whether it's NIL or everything about it, it's going to the Bucks. That TV deal is going to be redone here pretty quick. So that's going to be even more money. I would love them to go to the European model, the model of, okay, here are the top, let's say, 60 teams in the country. They are going to play in these 5 12-team conferences. Everybody else is relegated. Everybody else is a minor player in the game. And every year that status will be reviewed. So it brings into the specter that, like in European soccer, the relegation, where you can go from the major Premier League to suddenly not. And that would shock a lot of people. But the reality is, you go through the conferences. You can name 3 or 4 teams in every big conference that probably won't win it, and maybe don't really, in football at least, deserve to be in a major conference.
That sounds like a pretty cool idea. Wrapping things up here with CBS Sports Network's Randy Cross here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Now, Randy, would be remiss to say that our thoughts go to you. You lost your coach, longtime UCLA college football coach Terry Doughty, who passed away about a little over a month back. You actually shared a story on Twitter about how he recruited you, and it was kind of like by happenstance. Tell our audience about that.
Yeah, well, as I've, I would say, not gotten older, as I've matured, I've come to realize when it comes to recruiting, there's not much happenstance. Nobody happens to bump into anybody. Most of it is pretty calculated. But Terry Donahue played on the '66 Rose Bowl team for UCLA that beat Michigan State, who was the #1 team in the country back when they had Duffy Doherty and Bubba Smith and Jimmy Ray and all those guys. I mean, a truly great college football team. They upset them in the Rose Bowl. Well, Terry Donahue was the defensive tackle on that team. The other defensive tackle was Steve Butler. That was my head football coach in high school. Mo Friedman was my offensive line coach. He was the starting center. And Joe Hollingsworth was the backup to Gary Beeman. So that was kind of the connection. So Terry was coming in. He was at Kansas at the time, my sophomore year, during spring practice. He was coming in to see Steve and Mo and Joe. And, I happened to meet him then. And, Steve Butler, the head coach, introduced me to him. And I was a shot putter in high school, too. I was pretty good. And Kansas had just had some world-class guys throwing the shot put that actually also played a little football. So, he was kind of selling that whole idea of, hey, you can come to Kansas and throw the shot on a great track team and play football, which had zero really. I mean, I liked their track, but the football was not real good. Yeah, and a couple months later, or maybe even less than that, he's coaching at UCLA. Pepper Rogers, who was the coach at Kansas, takes the job at UCLA. So, yeah, it's all kind of connected one way or the other.
So you got any more questions?
Last question. Yeah, last question from me, Randy. Of course, now that we're in the middle of the preseason for the NFL, of course, across all 4 major sports, we hear stories about rookie hazing. In particular, in the NFL, it gets kind of crazy. I know it was kind of crazy when you play. I know they kind of tamed down on some of that stuff now. Of course, rookies had to buy the newspaper for the veterans, wash their cars, get taped to the goalpost, seeing their college fights on in front of everybody, in front of a team meeting or in front of a cafeteria. What was some of your rookie hazing duties during your playing days?
Well, I was the first pick that year, so I got kind of special treatment. They gave me a little bit of everything. First road trip, I had to wear this like bucket that had a face mask on it and a chin strap, and it was painted like a Niner helmet. I had to wear it on the plane, to the game, and back from the game. It was interesting. But in 1979, Bill Walsh came to the Niners. And one of the many, many, many things that Bill was light years ahead of everybody else was in eliminating that whole hazing idea. And he basically said in training camp that first year he was there, he goes, look, you're all 49ers. So we're going to treat you the same. We're going to treat everybody like they're on this team until you're not. So that includes, we're not going to haze rookies. We're not going to do any of that stuff. So I played, 10 of my 13 years in an environment where that really wasn't something that was a factor. So we were really unusual in that regard, because I don't think the real hazing truly died in the NFL until, maybe a decade or so ago, when everybody else kind of figured out it wasn't a good thing to let people mess with the guys they're giving all that money to.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, fair enough. Oh gosh, this is so much fun, Randy. At Randy Cross FB on Twitter. Where can people check you out this fall on the CBS network? CBS Sports
we'll
Network,
be inside college football. We'll be on Tuesday nights, as it has been for a long time. I've been on that now for about 12 years with Adam Zucker, Rick Neuheisel, and Aaron Taylor and Brian Jones. Same consistent group. And then on the weekends, I'll be doing games. And I'll do all the Navy home games. I'll do a mix of some American, some Mountain West. I love it. It keeps you close to the game, and it's a fantastic thing to get to do. It's kind of like a yearly fantasy camp as far as I'm concerned.
Well, you do great work as always, Randy. We got to do this again soon. Thank you so much for joining us here on Second Stage Sports. And you guys stay safe, and we'll check you out all college football season.
I like it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Hey, thank you, sir.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
All right. Once again, that was
boy.
Randy Cross of CBS Sports Network. He's a college football analyst. Lakeena, since we have a couple minutes before we hit our break for the bottom of the hour, I was going to ask him, well, like you said, we'll get him back in the future, but I was watching some stuff through on YouTube earlier this week. Of course, I remember him obviously as a broadcaster with NBC and CBS. I was going to ask him because he worked with some of the greats as far as play-by-play, man, the late great Dick Enberg and Vern Lundquist, who was the voice of the Dallas Cowboys before he did network stuff for both the NBA and the NFL. I was going to ask him what was their broadcasting styles, how was they like working with both of them. Like I said, we'll get him back for so he could tell that story. But I was thinking about watching some of the old 49ers films. Like I did remember him playing, but after I found out when he was doing broadcasting, he brought up that he played for the 49ers during the 80s. You know, those scenes were not to be messed with. We talk about the 85 Bears. We talk about the Washington football team who snuck in a couple of Super Bowls during that decade. That should have been the Bears, but that's a whole nother topic. But those 49ers teams, of course, the offense got the credit, and rightfully so. But it was their defense, and especially the now Hall of Famer Charles Haley.
Yes.
You did not want to mess with that 49ers defense, and that defense did not get enough credit, along with the offensive line. They didn't. Those two units for those 49ers teams back in the 80s, they don't get enough credit, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, and I think those. Remember, Randy was on the O line for those teams, so
exactly.
I think he'll be the first to tell you that that defense probably should have gotten more of their due. But understandably so, you had Joe Montana, Randy, John Taylor, and eventually Jerry Rice. He would join in a few years later for those last couple of Super Bowls for San Fran, but. Yeah, I feel like those 80s, because football was so different back then. Those 80s 49ers teams just really didn't kind of get their due, sort of. It feels like, they kind of thought it was an afterthought. Now, of course, you got the Patriots and what Dallas did, in the 90s. So I kind of feel like those 49ers teams were kind of like forgotten about. I'm sure if you ask Randy, I'm sure he'll feel the same way.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure he will as well. It's bottom of the hour. We had to take a pause for the calls. When we return, we'll give you our thoughts about what we're looking forward to in tomorrow's preseason game for the Chicago Bears as they take on Mitch Trubisky in the Buffalo Bills at the Lakefront. And we'll get into some baseball as well. I have a question for you White Sox fans, so stay tuned for that. I'm Sidney Brown along with Lakeena McGee. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago.
I just heard my favorite band is in town. I'd love to get good seats, but everywhere I've looked, the ticket sites have crazy service fees.
Haven't you heard of TixSplits?
Who?
TixSplits. They don't gouge you with crazy fees. The price they advertise is the price you pay, plus a small delivery fee.
Never pay service fees again. Go to TixSplits.com today. TixSplits.com. Guaranteed seats, low prices. That's TixSplits.com. Every ticket, every venue, everywhere.
All right, sorry about that, folks. I guess the rest of the breaks are technical difficulties here, but it's okay. We're back. Well, by second season sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Sidney Brown. I'm Lakeena McGee, and once again, thank you so much to CBS Sports Network's Randy Cross for joining us today. We'll definitely have him back on. But Sid, you wanted to go to the Diamond, or we're doing Bears, right? Because we're doing the Bears are playing Buffalo and the preseason, and we're going to be seeing a lot of Mitch tonight. Since Josh Allen won't play. Well, tomorrow, yeah, and because Josh Allen won't be playing, so I'm kind of looking forward to see what he does. I'm sure some Buffalo fans are going to say, well, they're going to regret not picking him, but for the Bears not keeping him. But what do you think? What's you're expecting from this preseason game?
I'm glad I didn't listen to much of Chicago sports radio this week because I know that's the number one storyline. Will Bears fans boo Mitch Trubisky? How much will Mitch Trubisky play? Will he play the majority of the first half? Will he play 3/4 of the game? And will he do anything special to show up Bears fans? I was just I'm glad they had to go through that garbage. I'm sure there was some silliness on both sports stations this week regarding a meaningless preseason game. I get it that Mitch Trubisky is playing here in Chicago for the first time since he was let go, but I'm focusing more on Justin Fields. I know he was supposed to practice with the ones this week. I know he set out practice the other day. I know he's supposed to play tomorrow, but here's what I'm looking forward to tomorrow's game with the Bears. One, the offensive line play. I know the rookie tackle Tevin Jenkins is probably out for the year with that back surgery after it was announced he was going to have surgery earlier this week. I want to see how the offensive line protects Justin Fields. And for Justin Fields, I want to see if this goes back to head coach Matt Nagy, which I said last week. Even though it's preseason years, you're going to play against the ones just a little bit more since we had 3 preseason games this year. The second preseason game looks like for some teams will be used as like the third preseason game traditionally in the past. So I want to see if head coach Matt Nagy will open up the playbook a little bit more for Justin Fields. I want to see how he has his arm strength. We saw it on the busted play last week on that touchdown pass to Jesse James. Well, Matt Nagy opened up the playbook a little bit more. Of course, you don't want to show what you're going to do against the Rams on opening night, which is probably 3 weeks away. And so you're going to keep things basic, but I want to see how Justin Fields reads the defense. Number one, I'm sure most of the ones are going to play for Buffalo on the defensive side. I want to see how he reads the defenses quickly. If coverage breaks down, can he read it quickly? Does he know what to do? And I just want to see that arm strength. And I'm not saying he should throw the ball up 40 times a game. He's Kurt Warner. No, I just want to see more of a mix of play calling, and let's see if Fields can execute those plans.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how much, because Buffalo's defense is actually pretty decent. So I'm wondering, will you see a lot of their starters, tomorrow? And, because this is sort of like this sort of treat, kind of I guess, maybe the third preseason game is usually treated as the fourth preseason game, but it looks like the second preseason game is being treated as such. So it's sort of confusing how it all works. But, I'm kind of wondering, okay, is he going to see sort of the same thing? I know he's been kind of banged up with a growing injury. It looks like, he was back at practice yesterday. I think he's practicing today too. So I'm kind of looking to see okay, let's see if he can try to do this against sort of one of the top defenses in the league last year. So, in the Buffalo, kind of they were in the top 10 or 12. So, but like I said, I doubt they're going to be seeing a lot of them, tomorrow, but we'll see. I mean, I'm looking forward to see what they do here we'll see how they do with the Bills tomorrow.
Of course, the game is on at noon tomorrow on Fox 32. Adam and me and Jim Miller will be on the call for the Chicago Bears television network. Lakeena, let's wrap up with the Bears, and by I'll say this, wrapping up with the Bears. I also want to see the running game, whoever's in there. I'm sure we're going to see a little bit more of Damian Williams. I'm sure maybe a little bit more of David Montgomery. I'm not sure, but Khalil Herbert, I want to see what this kid is made of. And I know we got to see glimpses and flashes last week. Let's see if Matt Nagy gives him some more plays to show his talent. Also, number 2, special teams. We talked about it last week with Lakeena, 2 fumbles. That's not acceptable. I know it's a dress rehearsal. I don't want to go overboard with that, but if they don't clean up that part of the game. It's going to be a long season for the Bears. I know Sherrick McManus and Cordell Patterson is not here anymore. They're both not here anymore as far as the return game is concerned. I want to see who's going to step up to take those kickoff and punt returns. And please just keep 2 hands on the ball. Keep 2 hands on the ball. That's all I want you to do.
Well, I also want to see
If we can do that, that'll be a small step in the right direction.
Well, I mean, I also want to see if Alec Ogletree can play in special teams. I mean, I'm sure that's probably like they need more bodies there, right? So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. So what else are you kind of expecting? Because I think, like I said, I don't think we're going to expect much. I don't think Dalton's going to play very much. I don't think a lot of the top tier guys are going to play too much. We know that the Bills are going to play their guys a lot. So it's going to be one of those, those preseason games where like you're just going to maybe see like some of the top round guys and maybe guys that are vying for those last few spots in the roster. So I'm not really expecting too much.
Like I said, I'm looking forward if Mr. Fields can improve from last week to this week. It all depends on the head coach and offensive coordinator. Will they open up the playbook a little bit more for Mr. Fields? And I want to see a little bit more from the running game, especially Khalil Herbert, if he can show what he could do. Once again, it goes with the head coaches. First, will they draw the plays to call his number? We'll see in the special teams. The return game has to improve. I'm not expecting a big return. That'll be nice. But if you just keep 2 hands on the ball, I know, keep 2 hands on the ball and don't turn over. It's a small step in the right direction. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakeena, McGee, and Sidney Brown. If you want to post your comments via our Facebook and YouTube channels, you can do so at Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, at Sports Zone Chicago via our Facebook and YouTube pages. Post your comments up. Lakeena will get them on the air for you. What do you expect from the Bears in the preseason tomorrow against the Bills? What do you expect Mitchell Trubisky to do? Do you think he's going to have a good game? Do you think he's going to come out ready for revenge to show up the Bears, to show up the fans and say, hey, you guys didn't give me a chance. You don't love me like that. I'm going to stick it to you. Do you expect that tomorrow? Do you expect the Bears to just go vanilla about their business or get after Trubisky? That could happen too. But like you said, Lakeena, it's preseason, so I don't expect too much to happen in terms of going after Trubisky.
The only thing I'm looking forward to seeing is that are people going to boo him? Are the folks at Soldier Field going to boo him?
Some folks will. Some folks will.
Well, yeah, I see Tariq Cohen. He just tweeted. Well, yeah, I mean, I see Tariq Cohen just tweeted a half hour ago. If you boo Mitch tomorrow, you a lame and a weirdo. Like, okay. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. I'm sure they're gonna be maybe some mixture, maybe cheers and boos, but people are gonna boo regardless. So I don't think folks shouldn't expect really like to not that to happen because of the fact that he did underachieve here. And some will say he was set up to fail, and I get it. Some people, a lot of Bears fans feel that way, but I'm not like gonna freak out if they boo. Like this, just at least just be nice and cordial about it.
Before we move on to baseball, any other preseason games you're looking forward to tonight, tomorrow? I think there's a couple on Sunday. I'll start off the Chiefs and the Cardinals. They play tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Patrick Mahomes should play most of the first half of Kansas City. He only played the series last week in their win over the 49ers. Of course, Kyler Murray will make his preseason debut tonight at home for the Arizona Cardinals. They have a big expectations are for them this year. Of course, they picked up J.J. Watt from Houston. Larry Fitzgerald retired. So I'm looking forward to. I'm assuming that Kyler Murray is going to play the majority of the first half as well. I'm looking forward to this tonight, Lakeena. It's just as we said before, since there's 3 preseason games this year, you're going to see most of the starters in there for the majority of the first half. I don't know, maybe a couple of things will extend it into the third quarter, but it's just play it safe, get them out of there healthy. That's what this is all about.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the thing too. Jackson Packers, I got some bad news today. One of their top free agent acquisitions, Carl Lawson, he's done for the year with the Achilles injury, so that's a big loss for the Jets. And some people thought that maybe the Jets might. I'm not saying like win the AFC East, but they thought that maybe they're going to make a breakthrough with the new coaching staff and whatnot. So that's a tough break for them. Maybe Tennessee and Tampa Bay, but like I said, it's going to be just. But Bruce Arians already said that Tom Brady is not going to play So that's really like,
It's
know,
just
it's a little
practice.
bit,
Just practice.
yeah, it is. That's basically all he said. It's just practice. Let's see, Indianapolis and Minnesota. That'll be interesting. Vegas and the Los Angeles Rams. That might be pretty good. Denver and
Well, we'll see
Seattle.
how the Raiders respond
Yeah.
after the fight yesterday in practice, which ended practice early. Good grief!
Yeah. Oh my God, that was crazy.
That's for the Raiders, right?
Yeah. Shh. Don't tell Coach Gruden that. Giants and Browns. That should be an interesting one there. San Fran and the Los Angeles Chargers. Jacksonville and New Orleans. You got Houston and Dallas. Detroit and Pittsburgh. Baltimore and Carolina. Atlanta and Miami. Plus, we said Jets and Green Bay. And you got a couple of interesting ones tonight. You got, like you said, KC and Arizona, and also too Cincy and Washington. So that should be some interesting preseason games. Like I said, I think it's sort of weird how it, sort of manifests.
Mhm.
Like you got some games we're going to maybe see the Stars play most of the first half, but then in other cases you're going to see the Stars going to sit. So it really depends on which game you watch tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll say this about the Packers. Who are they playing? Because I don't have the schedule in front of me. I'm using a different device today. The Jets. Okay.
Yes.
Let's see if Zach Wilson plays. I'm sure he will. If he does, will he play the majority of the first half? Of course, Aaron Rodgers is not going to play for the Packers for this preseason. I want to see how Jordan Love improves from last week to this week. So I think that's a bigger game than what people make it out of. Of course, it's not the Super Bowl. We know that. But I want to see how both those quarterbacks, of course, Zach Wilson, the rookie, and Jordan Love, the second-year guy at Utah State. I want to see how both those young guys play. Because you never know, both are one. Well, Zach Wilson is the quarterback of the future for the Jets, but if you're Jordan Love, heaven forbid Aaron Rodgers goes down, you got to be ready for your number to be called.
Absolutely. All right, so let's go to the Diamond real quick, Sid. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Sidney Brown. I am Lakeena McGee, switching gears here to go on the Diamond. The White Sox had a nice week, winning 3 out of 4 against Oakland. Extending their lead. I think their magic number is 30 right now. I know we're already doing magic numbers now for for clinching in the playoffs. But what do you think about the series? I mean, they lost a tough one yesterday, but look, they won the series against a really good Oakland team. So, what's your synopsis of the series?
We told you guys this on Monday. This was, in my opinion, in our opinion, the most important series of the year. Of course, the records against 500 teams was subpar. Of course, I believe they're at 500 or one game over. I'm not sure. But I know Chuck Garfien, the NBC Sports Chicago, the pre- and post-game host for the White Sox there, tweeted out earlier this week that most of the teams that won the World Series over the past decade or so, their records against 500 teams were not that great. And the White Sox are in that pattern. But it was important to say 3 out of 4 from Oakland. As I mentioned, if Oakland got in, there would be trouble for the White Sox. Now, if you're Chicago, you're going on the road starting tonight to face Tampa Bay, which one of the teams that you could see in the playoffs. I think they could be more dangerous against the Sox because you have your nemesis Nelson Cruz, who was traded from Minnesota to Tampa Bay. He's doing a good job. I know he's struggled here lately, but he's always been a thorn in the White Sox side over the last few years. I know the Sox haven't been good until the last couple of years. But Tampa, I know they lost Tyler Glass now, their star pitcher, but they're still keeping it together. Give manager Kevin Cash credit for that. Tampa, they have something to play for as well because we'll get into the rest of baseball in just a moment. But the AL East division race has just gotten tighter. We'll tell you why in just a second. But back to the White Sox side of it. It was important to take 3 out of 4 from Oakland. It gives you confidence that you can beat winning teams, the teams that are in the hunt for the playoffs, and you hopefully continue to carry that momentum into this weekend series against Tampa, which I think is even more important now. You have Giolito going tonight. You have Dallas Keuchel starting tomorrow. Of course, Reynaldo Lopez, who pitched great in his last start last week. He's going on the bump on Sunday for the White Sox. So the matchups, or at least on the pitching side, lines up pretty well for the White Sox. And so let's just see if the White Sox can match, hopefully, good starting pitching, match that with a good consistent offense. Because Uh, as we said before, these are the dog days of summer. We're right in the middle of this month already, and the White Sox are at 560 All-Star break, and we pretty much said, Lakeena, we expected this. Just play at 500 or slightly above 500, you should be fine. You get some of your key guys back. Luis Robert, we had a 2 RBI game the other night. His bat is starting to come around now. He hasn't lost it out in the outfield. Eloy Jimenez, he still has a gift here and there in the outfield, but he's covering up with his bat right now. So he's doing his thing offensively. Tim Anderson, I know he had the day off yesterday, but he's been on fire. So I kind of like where the White Sox is going right now. Hopefully, you take 2 out of 3 from Tampa. If you get swept, it's not the end of the world, but it will put some doubt in your mind.
Yeah.
Before you play Toronto for 4 games starting on Monday. So this road trip is very important. If you can at least get 3 or 4 wins realistically in this 7-game road trip, that's going to be pretty successful. Obviously, more than 4 wins will be great. But realistically, if you come out of this road trip with a 4-3 record, you should be pretty happy if you're a Sox fan.
Yeah, I mean, Lance Lynn has been sort of, Lance Lynn, of course. He's a little, he's definitely a bulldog out there on the field early this weekend.
Brittany. Sorry.
I know. Well, yeah, like the sticky substance, if you will, that's out there. But yeah, I mean, it's very interesting here. But like you said, so I think if you win, if you go 4-3 in this road trip, I think you got to be, you got to feel good about yourself. You're the White Sox, right? And like I kind of feel like there's this, I don't think there's a sense of urgency, but I kind of feel like the White Sox are kind of in prove-it mode. I think they realize that folks are still, even some of their old fans are thinking that, what, maybe it'll be a little more, maybe we'll believe in this team more if we maybe some of the top teams. They won 3 out of 4 against a really good Oakland team. We'll see how they do it against Tampa. We'll talk about them in a second. Like you said, Sid, they got 4 against Toronto. They've had their struggles, but that's like that gritty team, kind of similar to the White Sox in a lot of ways. Only they have better pitching, but but they're gonna get a fight for them. So I'm looking forward to these games because it's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to seeing. Look, like you said, so if they do terribly, then it's not not nothing to freak out about. But at the same time, though, for confidence wise, I think you want to have a good road record. Going into those last 3 series against the Cubs starting next week. And next week.
Yeah, you just summed it up, Lakeena. Is our magic number on this show is 4. If you can win 4 out of the 7 games on this road trip, of course, it's starting tonight in Tampa. That's a successful road trip. If you get swept by either of these teams, it's going to be a problem. It's not the end of the world, but like I say, it puts down in your minds of if the Sox could be a good playoff contending team come October. But for the White Sox, I need Dallas Keuchel to step up. He's going tomorrow. Dylan Cease had as the kids would say, start yesterday. Even though the White Sox were still in it, I want to see him improve. Dallas Keuchel, I want to see him improve as well. Ronaldo Lopez was going on the bump on Sunday. I want to see if he can continue it because in his last start against Oakland, he was tremendous. And remember, Lakeena wanted the White Sox to train him right before the shutdown last year.
You did.
The White Sox right now, they're the smartest people, more smart than we are. So, and of course, Lopez has been pitching out of the bullpen the last few weeks, and now he's in the starter's role for right now. Of course, Rick Hahn and manager Tony La Russa wants to see what Lopez has left. It looks like he has a whole lot left. So, very important games this weekend for the White Sox. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sidney Browns. We talk about the best and worst of Major League Baseball from this past week. Lakeena, let's start with the AL East race. The Boston Red Sox in Toronto, they still continue to struggle. I know the White Sox play the next week, but the Boston Red Sox and New York Yankees, the Yankees starting to get some guys back. Garrett Cole pitched a great game on Monday in their makeup game against the Anaheim Angels. Andy Rizzo is supposed to be back this weekend. He was in a dugout in that game against Minnesota last night. The Red Sox got swept by the Yankees earlier this week. I told you, Lakeena, all season, Boston has a great offense, and that's why they had the lead in the AL East. I know they got Eduardo Rodriguez. I know Chris Sale is back. He made his season debut last week. I know they had Nathan Eovaldi, but I told you I don't like their starting pitching. You saw what happened earlier this week at Yankee Stadium. Need I say more?
Yeah, I
Maybe
mean,
I don't know.
yeah, I'm gonna say, well, look, you said this. You've been on this all year that the Red Sox pitching is sort of like been the thing that's gonna keep them from going to the promised land, and that's what's happening right now. They won. They've lost 3 in a row. They're kind of in a free fall right now. Can they get back up? I think only time will tell, but it's gonna be tough. But on the flip side, though, the Yankees, they've won 7 in a row, and they're kind of like creeping up there as of right now, as of this this recording of this show. They're 5 back of Tampa. They still got to play Tampa, so could they perhaps maybe make a move and win that division? I'm not saying that they will, but right now it looks like they're kind of like knocking on the door, if you will. So we'll see what happens.
Also, too, the Houston Astros struggling at Kansas City this week.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And like I said, before winning their series finale on Thursday, of course, Oakland does the same thing and lose the 3 games here in Chicago before winning their series finale yesterday. So those 2 teams are still going to battle it out for the AL West title. As I told you guys, Houston, I give them their respect, but I just don't trust them. I know White Sox fans are worried about that team. I get it. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but they're not, in my opinion, they're not all cracked up as they are. Maybe I'm not giving Houston enough credit. I give them their respect, but I'm not fearing them. So, but I think at the end, this will be a bump in the road for the Houston Astros. Of course, the AL Central need I say more. White Sox ahead 11.5 games over the Cleveland Indians and 13.5 over those cheating ass AJ Hinch Detroit Tigers. Speaking of the Detroit Tigers, Miguel Cabrera is still sitting at career home run number 499.
Yeah.
Shohei Ohtani did watch this game on Wednesday via my computer.
Number 40.
Number 40. That's still, but that ball's still carrying out there in Comerica Park. I don't know if you watched Matt I can't say his name. Matt thank you. I'm getting fired up, folks. Excuse me, it's a fighting. Matt Vasgersian's called on Valley Sports West for the Angels. That ball's still going. I know this very imitation of his voice, but he said after the game, during that broadcast, that we'll watch this something special. And I said, yes, we are, but will the Angels ever become a winner? And number 2, can we all, I know he's injured, but can we, I don't want to put the nail in the coffin, but can Mike Trout be a quote-unquote forgotten star on the second popular baseball team in Los Angeles?
Yeah, it's sort of.
Or maybe I'm overreacting. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little strange that you would think that the way the Rangers, they're in Los Angeles, Angels of Orange County or whatever, however you want to say it. But I mean, it's going to be very interesting though, right? I mean, they're kind of like they're 10 back. They're not going to win the AL West, but they're still kind of within the striking distance of the wild card, but that's still, they're 7.5 back. So that's still a little kind of like a long way to go. But it's kind of seems unfortunate that, that this team has not made, sort of the strides. They won the World Series years ago, but it seems like they haven't been able to duplicate that success. So I don't know what's happening there, but, we'll have to wait and see if Joe Madden can kind of, turn that corner. Jorge Polanco from the Twins actually had 3 walk-offs, this week. So, he had a walk-off, single, walk-off double, and a walk-off sac fly. Tony Pena in 82, and also George Scott in 73. Those were the last guys to do it. So, congrats to him. He had a nice week for the Twins had a nice week. So real quick, in the National League, it looks like maybe the Dodgers might be kind of coming up. They've won 7 in a row, and the Giants kind of.
They beat the Mets last night. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Well, that's not, like I said, that's not really saying much, but I mean, the Dodgers, they've won 7 in a row. Yes, I know they swept the Mets, but again, hey. Let's be puzzled here, but I'm kind of like looking forward to see what happens with them, because I think we'll see if they can sneak in there, because I think the Giants, they better watch out, because the Dodgers are coming at them.
Yeah, the San Francisco Giants took care of the Mets earlier this week. Of course, the Mets are in the weekend series in Los Angeles against the Dodgers. They lost the first game of the 4-game set last night. San Diego, I know they just got Fernando Tatis Jr. back. He's playing the outfield. I know Lakeena is going to give up the read off the schedule for this weekend series in just a moment. But San Diego, they're starting to slip fast. They struggled at Colorado early this week. I know they have a big series against the Dodgers at home next week. You can't look too far ahead, San Diego. This is their season right here, in my opinion, because all the injuries that they've dealt with, and they picked up Jake Arrieta the other day. He lost in his first start. Not so good times in San Diego, so they better put together a winning streak and a big one fast.
Yeah, because they're starting to, both the Giants and the Dodgers are kind of putting them in the rearview mirror, so they better get it together real quick. With the weekend series, the Cubs, they won their series against the Reds. They won 2 out of 3, yay! But
I give them 2 claps.
Yeah, bravo. Yeah, exactly. They got the Royals. They got the Royals coming up, starting in about just a little bit about 20 minutes. So if you're a Cubs fan, you're interested in watching that. You got Atlanta and Baltimore, Minnesota and Yankees. So Yankees will try to keep up that win streak they got. Detroit and Toronto, they definitely need to get their stuff together. With the Blue Jays do if they want to kind of keep within distance of the AL wild card. You got the Angels and Cleveland. Of course, you got the White Sox and the Rays, Miami and Cincy, Texas and Boston. Boston will try to see if they can get it together. Seattle and Houston, that should be a good one there in the AL West. You got
They're still hanging around, like you said, Lakeena. They're not going
I
away
told
just
you they
yet.
would. They got a lot of young players. They're not going away just yet. Miami and Cincy. Texas and Boston got they have a double header today. You got Washington and the Nationals. Wait, hold on. I lost my place there. Okay. Mets and Dodgers. We'll see if the Dodgers can kind of keep up. San Fran and Oakland. That should be a good one there in the Bay Area.
Battle of the Bay. Yep.
That's a good one. And the Phillies and San Diego and the Padres. So that should be another good one. So they got to get it to go.
Yeah, big series for both those teams. Philadelphia was, which we'll mention now. They got swept by the Diamondbacks this week. As we told you guys, these are the dog days of summer. Anything can happen. So I think this is just the beginning. So for those contending teams facing lowly teams, if you don't take care of business, these losses going to come back and bite you in the you-know-what.
Absolutely. So, Sid, we got to take a really, really quick break. So who do we have coming up?
We have Suzie Hunter, multimedia journalist from the East Coast. She's doing a special project that takes her throughout the country. Well, we'll discuss that and other things with her as you're listening to Second City Sports along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sidney Brown. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead.
I just heard my favorite band is in town. I'd love to get good seats, but everywhere I've looked, the ticket sites have crazy service fees.
Haven't you heard of TixSplits?
Who?
TixSplits. They don't gouge you with crazy fees. The price they advertise is the price you pay, plus a small delivery fee.
Never pay service fees again. Go to TixSplits.com today. TixSplits.com. Guaranteed seats, low prices. That's TixSplits.com. Every ticket, every venue, everywhere.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports live and in living color on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with Lakeena McGee, I am Sidney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can watch this show, Second City Sports, along with our other live shows right here on Sports Zone Chicago via our Facebook and Twitter, Facebook and YouTube pages, I should say. So if you want to watch us live, you can do so at Sports Zone Chicago. Make sure you search for Sports Zone Chicago. That's on our Facebook and YouTube pages as well. And to kick off hour number 2 of the Friday edition of Second City Sports, we have multimedia journalist from the East Coast. She's doing something special with the game of baseball all summer long. We'll get into that, plus a whole lot more. And we'll welcome in Miss Suzie Hunter, multimedia journalist. And you can see her if you guys watching us live on YouTube or our Facebook pages at Sports Zone Chicago. You can follow her on Instagram and Twitter at the Suzie Hunter. Once again at TheSuzie Hunter. Did I get that correct, Suzie?
You nailed it. Sidney,
Yay!
thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited to chat with you guys.
Yeah, thanks for hopping on with us. Of course, I've been following you for the last couple weeks, trying to track you down, and of course we've been going through some changes as far as getting our content out. We're actually back doing live shows now. I wanted to catch you in person because you spent some time here in Chicago over the last couple weeks. But before we get to that, tell us how did you get involved with this project and traveling to every Major League Baseball ballpark throughout the summer? How did this project come about?
Yeah, so I feel like this is just every baseball fan's dream to visit every ballpark, but especially to do it all in one season. I've always wanted to do that. And I was a reporter in Connecticut, and my contract was up in the spring. And I thought, you know what, instead of renewing, let me take a little time off. Reporting during the pandemic was really stressful and really taxing on everyone's mental health. But I figured, why not take this opportunity? I don't know when I'd have time like this to do this again. So I decided to road trip to every MLB ballpark, but I wanted to make sure I had a charitable component to it as well. So I made sure that I made it a fundraiser for the Boys and Girls Clubs of America.
Yeah, hashtag she needs gas money. If you use that, give me credit for it.
So,
Lakeena.
Suzie, tell us, what has it been like, traveling from ballpark to ballpark? Because there's still COVID still, running around. You still got a lot of restrictions in some parts of the country. What has that been like?
Yeah, it's been interesting. So I started back in May and I started also in the Northeast where there were more restrictions. And every ballpark I went to at the beginning, had a lot of closed concession stands. They weren't at full capacity. I remember specifically having to wear a mask on the concourse everywhere in New York at both stadiums. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely evolved over the summer. And of course, after that, I headed south, which, famously just has much less restrictions. And now as the Delta variant is becoming a factor again, I'm seeing a little more restrictions. When I was in both Kansas City and St. Louis, those cities have mandates for masks where you have to wear them inside. So I was like, oh my gosh, because I've been vaccinated since April. So I'm like, oh wow, I actually really haven't worn a mask like this in a long time. So I was like, oh God, I got to make sure I have it. So it's just been interesting watching as the country changes, as you drive through it, and as the COVID numbers have ebbed and flowed. It's a very special season to be doing something like this.
Suzie Hunter, multimedia journalist, joining us here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sidney and Lakeena here with you. Suzie, let's get into it. You were in Chicago for the last couple of weeks, both at Wrigley Field and at Sox Park. I'm not calling, even though I'm a Sox fan, as you well know, I'm not calling that corporate name. And for those of you that don't understand stat of White Sox business, I'm not explaining it to you. I'll call it Comiskey Park or Sox Park. I'll leave it at that. But tell us the difference between both the ballparks and both the fan bases from your experience in visiting the city of Chicago.
I will say I have a bone to pick with both ballparks because you can't walk the concourse at those parks. This is the first time I've run into this on my trips. So I can't do a full lap at Wrigley. I can't do a lap at all at Sox Park. So I was kind of disappointed that I didn't get to see the whole stadium because you're not allowed to. I didn't like that. But other than that, both parks have great vibes, very different vibes, but I liked both of them a lot.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
So some of the best, ballparks, even up and down the Northeast, you just came, to the Midwest. So without ranking them, because I don't want, some of the folks that run those ballparks, manage it. So, okay, so without putting them in order so far, what are your kind of like your top, your top ballparks you visit so far?
Yeah, so I loved PNC Park in Pittsburgh, and I'd never been to Pittsburgh. I'm from Philly originally, but like Philly people, Pittsburgh people, we don't really like cross the state too much for each other because there's not a lot of people. So I've never been to Pittsburgh. I loved it there. It was so humid though, but that was a really cool ballpark. I really like the Rangers' new park, the new Globe Life.
Yes.
It's a modern marvel. I got a tour of it, and it was just, there's so much crazy tech that goes into it. And also just like different things that they did to like maximize the money that they make off of fans, because that's also what it's about too. But it's a really cool park, and it looks like a big ugly convention center on the outside, but inside it kind of looks like a Coors Field. You get a lot of natural light, and I've been to a lot of the indoor parks now, and it's probably the best natural light that you get in those covered parks. So I liked that a lot. So those are a couple of my favorites that I've run into so far.
Before I get to my next question, Suzie, I'll go back to both ballparks in Chicago. Of course, I was fortunate enough to watch Cubs, Sox at Wrigley a couple of weeks ago. And I will say this, in defense of Wrigley, they did have the vendors out there, and so I know many teams have different views on it, of course, cutting back and trying to recoup money from not having the fans in the stands last year. Wrigley had the vendors out there. Sox Park, they still don't, which makes no sense to me. I was there last Sunday against the Yankees, even in the upper deck, because those last two games, as you well know, Suzie, you were there last Saturday. Both those games were sold out. And if you don't, I tell people this all the time. Even in a quote unquote regular year, pre-COVID era, get to the ballpark early so you can avoid those lines. Of course, we have vendors. I'm sure hopefully they'll return for the playoffs, for the Sox, but they still don't have vendors there. It makes no sense. If you don't get your food and concessions early, you're going to wait there for at least almost 2 full innings. And I was just trying to get to the bathroom, and I had to duck and dodge through these long lines. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
So did you experience that last week at Sox Park?
Oh, absolutely. So I was there for Saturday. So that was the first game back after the Field of Dreams game. It was packed. There was a jersey giveaway too. So I made sure we got there so early. I wanted to get there right when the gates opened because I wanted to make
Smart
sure.
girl.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, even like, it was just, like I said, it was so packed, but I was in line forever, like just getting like simple food items. It took a really long time, like probably some of the longest lines I've seen. But I also know that it was like, a couple of the like concessions people that I talked to, people at the store, said that it was the busiest game they'd seen all season.
Yeah. Go ahead, Lakeena.
No, I was just thinking that I know the concessions, some of them were kind of limited, because of COVID. Best ballpark food. I know that, like I said, I know some of the concessions are still kind of limited. How many people can go to those to the concessions? But best ballpark food so far that you've had.
Oh, I know. I hate this question just because, like, there are parks that I know have great food, but they weren't at full capacity when I was there, so I didn't get to, like, experience it myself. Right. I actually, I had some, I guess this is in my recent memory because I was just in Kansas City. They have great barbecue there, but I tried the nachos there with some pulled chicken, and it was phenomenal. Pulled chicken. So I really enjoyed that. My favorite ballpark food of all time, though, are the monster nachos in Coors Field, specifically the ones in Section 110. So if you're ever going out to Colorado, I know there are a lot of Cubs fans who like to travel there or like to move there. But best nachos, I think, in Major League Baseball.
Not just in Colorado, but loaded nachos at Sox Park, phenomenal. That's one of all of the Sox fans' favorites. I don't know if you ate it last week, Suzie, but the loaded nachos in the helmet at Sox Park, tremendous. Multimedia journalist Suzie Hunter is joining us here on Second City Sports, the Friday edition, live and in living color, along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sidney Brown. Suzie, before you started this adventure this year, which ballparks did you visit that you didn't have a chance to visit before you started this journey? Which ballparks did you visit and said, I never got a chance to visit that ballpark before this year? Which was those ballparks that you visited for the first time this year so far on this journey?
Yeah, definitely a lot. Like I've been to a lot of minor league parks, and I've been to most of the parks in the Northeast, but then outside of that, and I've been to Coors Field a bunch. I've been to Target Field, but most of the parks that I'm visiting are parks that are brand new to me. And especially at this point now, every park that I go to for the first time will be like the first time that I'm there. So it's been really cool. After I hit Target Field earlier this summer, that was about halfway for me. And then I was like, okay, every ballpark after this is new. So yeah, a lot of new experiences this summer.
What about out west? Have you had a chance to go to any of the ballparks out west yet? Or, if so, have you or have you not? Are you hoping to do that?
Well, I will do it. Yeah. So that's next. I just finished my Midwest leg, and I'm heading out towards the West Coast, and I will do all of that in the next coming month. It'll take me about a month to get through it all. So I'm excited, and it's going to be a beautiful drive too. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, hashtag she needs gas money, or this girl needs gas money. We'll start those hashtags for you if we need to, Suzie.
Thank you. Gas is expensive.
It is very expensive.
Yeah. You brought up the Field of Dreams game earlier, Suzie, and I know you watched it from a bar in Chicago. Question. Do you I know Major League Baseball as of right now, they're going to continue this thing. Next year is going to be Cubs, Reds, boo. I think it should be a different matchup, but that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother time. But do you think that baseball can actually capitalize on this, make it at least a yearly thing, if not every other year thing, just like the hockey does with the Winter Classic?
Yeah. Oh, I definitely think it's in that spirit. And just seeing the demand for it. I was also looking for tickets for it for a long time, and they were so expensive. So yeah. I definitely see the demand there. And I think people who wish they went this year might, be able to actually make it next year, maybe myself included. But yeah, I think it's cool. And watching it on TV, it was so cinematic. It was really incredible.
Oh, I love it. And I love that you're doing this, primarily to support the Boys and Girls Club of America, because I think they really could use the money, especially right now with COVID. What made you decide to do this and to pick that particular charity for the donations to be opened?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you asked this. So I had worked with Boys and Girls Club a lot in Hartford, and I see what they do with youth sports, and I see what they do with the game of baseball. And if we're going to further the game of baseball, we need to be encouraging kids playing, but also just team sports are so beneficial for young kids. Yeah. And outside of sports too, the Boys and Girls Clubs do so much. And I've talked to kids at different clubs over the past, couple of months, and the mental health struggle when clubs were closed, it was brutal. So I want everyone to kind of make sure these kids have the best summer, the best next coming year. So I want to, help pour all of our resources into that.
Heading down the home stretch with Suzie Hunter, multimedia journalist, Philadelphia's very own, right here on Second City Sports, along with Lakeena McGee. I'm Sidney Brown. You listening to us on Sports Zone Chicago. Suzie, we know that you're going to finish this year on a high note, visiting every ballpark in Major League Baseball. Are you considering any other projects of visiting all the other stadiums? Given the weather climate, are you considering doing it for the NBA, for the NFL, or the NHL anytime soon? Or would that be a part of your future plans?
That would be so amazing to do. Baseball is my first love, so I'd had to make sure I did this first. I would love to do something like that down the road, but definitely not this year because financially we'll not be able to make it happen. Probably a smart thing. Yeah, probably a smart thing to do. Now, which ballparks in the West Coast are you looking forward to visiting? Because there's some really good ones. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So this whole time I've been most looking forward to visiting Seattle because I've never been to Seattle, and I hear that park is amazing, and I hear they have some great food, and some interesting food. Like, I think they serve grasshoppers. That's a thing that they have
Yeah,
been doing
I've
there.
heard that,
So
yeah.
there's a lot that I want to try, and I hear that city is beautiful, like in general. So I'm so excited to visit Seattle.
Susie, before you started this project, where did that passion and love for baseball and for sports in general come from? Did it come from your parents, or did it come from somebody else in your family? Where did your passion of sports come from? We could tell through this interview that it's really a joy and pure happiness talking about the game of baseball from your perspective. Where did that passion come from?
Yeah, well, I'm from Philly, which is, one of the most intense sports towns you will ever so it's definitely the culture there. But I definitely have some family members who are big baseball fans. My grandfather was a huge Red Sox fan. He was from Boston originally. But yeah, like I've always loved it, and I definitely came to love it even more when I got to cover the Hartford Yard Goats when I worked in Hartford. So it's been a lifelong love.
I love that. Now, what about your what are your favorite? Who are your favorite teams? I know you're not, right now you got to be impartial, but what are your tried and true favorite teams? Is it the Phillies? Is it the Red Sox? You're like your grandfather. What are your favorite teams?
Well, so I was born a Phillies fan, but I've also become a Rockies fan because I covered their minor league team in Hartford. So I've low-key become a Rockies fan. Love them both. You have a different relationship with the team you were raised to love and the team you choose to love. And they're both definitely hard to love quite often.
Who are some of your Phillies players growing up? Who are some of your favorite players from the Phillies that you love watching growing up?
Oh my gosh. Well, we lived around the corner from Mike Schmidt when we were kids. So always a fan of him. Never met him.
Oh, lucky you.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
So always had a love for him because it's just you're nearby in the much nicer neighborhood, but he's nearby. He's one of us. A Delco guy. I don't know if you guys know about Delco, Delaware County, a suburb of Philly.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
It's got a lot of personality. So anyone who chooses Delco is fun in my book. Big Chase Utley fan after, the 08 World Series. That was just in general, a great time. That was such a fun time in my life.
No, I love that. Do you think the Phillies can make a go at it this year? I mean, they're kind of right near the top of the NL East.
Right. Of course, they have to get swept by one of the worst teams in baseball.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Typical Phillies, it's finally we're getting our hopes up, and then they get swept by the D-backs. But I think they definitely have a chance. Braves are definitely, very much in it too. They could run away with it. The Mets are done. So I don't know. The Phillies have a chance though, for sure.
Hoping on a wing and a prayer. Last moment or two with Suzie Hunter, a multimedia journalist for Philly. Join us here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakeena to sit with you. Suzie, one of the subjects we talk about on this show, myself and Lakeena, is that baseball needs to reach out to a more younger demographic. The NFL is still struggling to do that. The NBA, of course, the hip hop culture has been in full swing for the last 20, 25 years. They have no problem admitting that, and they cater their coverage to the younger fan base. The whole NBA Twitter culture is just phenomenal. Of course, hockey, well, they had no somebody but themselves. But in your opinion, how do you think that baseball can reach out to help attract the game to younger fans? I know they had a bunch of rule changes over the last few years. We see it a little bit in television coverage, but how can baseball help reach out to a more younger fan base to attract them to watch this game?
Yeah. Well, I think, you can do rule changes, you can, change the way you cover it on TV, but it's not going to make much of a difference unless you end blackouts, because there are so many people who can't stream the teams that they would want to watch. Yeah. So do all you want with the game or with how you cover it. But if people can't watch it, then what's the point? And younger people are streaming things, pretty much exclusively. Yeah. So you got to end the blackouts. I think that is the biggest thing.
Do you also agree too that maybe they should perhaps promote their stars more? We got Tim Anderson here in Chicago. Also, too, I know over in Philly you got Andrew McCutchen. Probably one of the faces from the Phillies. So, do you think also too they need to promote their players, particularly their African American players, especially?
Yeah, absolutely. Players can definitely be promoted better. But I think also making it more accessible to watch is like, it's
Mhm.
like, I think that's like the biggest thing. And it just drives me crazy, you know?
Where are you hanging out this weekend? Which ballpark?
So I was in St. Louis and Kansas City earlier this week, and I'm heading to Seattle, which is a very long drive. So I'm actually stopping in Denver for a couple of days. So I'll catch another Rockies game probably while I'm here. I have a lot of friends in Denver too. My mom actually flew out to Denver, and she's going to do the drive to Seattle with me. I haven't had anyone else in my car.
Oh, that's cool.
I have not had anyone else in my car all summer long. So like being around another person, prayers for my mom. Like she's going to be like, you live like a truck driver. What is happening?
Gotta love you. Look, moms are always worry warts you. So it's I understand where you're coming from, Susie. But yeah, I mean, look, Seattle is a great ballpark. I know PFC is a really great ballpark too in Pittsburgh. Everyone says that it's like kind of like one of the first class like ballparks, and here we can do a little bit better. I know that the Cubs just opened some like cool exhibits around the Wrigley Field for some. They actually have a Hall of Fame wing now, which is crazy. Look, I haven't been in White House Park in a while, so I'm sure they've got some new stuff too. Of course, all of us living due to COVID, so. I love what you're doing, Susie. I think that this is sort of a really cool like bucket list thing, for anybody who's a big baseball fan. They can look you up on your website. I've seen your website. There's some really great stuff on there.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely a fun trip, and I highly recommend it to anyone, even if you do it in like little legs. I've met a lot of people who are like, oh, my, friends and I are doing like these 4 ballparks in a road trip. So I've met a lot of mini road trippers, and I feel like this is definitely the summer to do that after being so cooped up last year.
Yeah. Last question for me, Susie. Hashtag she needs gas money. Hashtag this girl needs gas money. Where can people contribute to your fund to help the Boys and Girls Club of America as you travel around the country? Where can people make their donations to? Where can you direct them to make their donations to help you fund this road trip?
Yeah. So I have a GoFundMe specifically for the Boys and Girls Clubs. I also have a Patreon like for my own expenses, so that definitely helps a little too. And I'm so grateful for the people who are subscribing to that. But you can find the links to both of those at thesuziehunter.com/MLB-road-trip. And if that's like a lot to type in, find me on social media. The link is right there on every profile. I'm at @thesuziehunter across all platforms.
Hashtag she needs gas money. So we're gonna some gas money. We'll some gas money. It's pretty expensive.
But more than anything, I very much need donations so badly because my goal is 30K and I'm not close yet, but I'm gonna get there. But I definitely need a lot of help getting those donations for the Boys and Girls Clubs.
We'll definitely put that on our. We'll definitely put that on our social media too, so how to kind of help you out.
Thank you.
Yes, we'll definitely help you out the best way we can. And that's been Suzie Hunter, multimedia journalist out of Philadelphia. She's been kind enough to take some time out of her busy schedule to hang out with us on Second City Sports. Sid Lakeena here with you on Sports Zone Chicago. Suzie, thank you very much for taking the time and joining us today. It sounds like a cool experience. I know you're going to finish this home stretch strong. And if anything comes about, anything different, please let us know. We'll love to have you back on again. But when my Chicago White Sox make the playoffs, hopefully things work out. Hopefully we can get you back to Chicago because there's nothing like White Sox fans and White Sox baseball in Chicago on the South Side in October. Let's see if we can do something about that.
Oh my gosh, I would love to come back when the White Sox make playoffs. I would love to. Let's make it happen. Thank you guys so much for having me on, though.
Thank you, Susie. You stay safe.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. Take care. Stay safe out there.
Thanks.
All right. That was fun, Lakeena. Suzie Hunter, multimedia journalist out of Philadelphia. She's taking time out of her busy schedule to do this year. She mentioned she's having fun. Like she mentioned, follow her on Instagram and on Twitter at @thesuzie Hunter. That's TheSuzie Hunter. She's having a great time meeting a whole lot of great fans. Unfortunately, my schedule couldn't link up with hers. I was actually supposed to be at that Saturday Sox game, but it just couldn't happen. Just had to go to that Sunday game last week. But she's having a great time. You can see hear the joy in her voice, and we like to bring you fun stories like that. Yeah, we get into the hard and meat and potatoes of sports, but fun stories like that, you just cannot beat it. How could you not like that?
Yeah, she's like such a nice young lady too. So I love what she's doing. So we'll have it on. We'll have a ticker going across the screen. For the last segment of our show, so you guys can check out what she's doing, and you can spread it to your friends and help her out. Also, most importantly, the Boys and Girls Clubs of America.
Yes. Doing charity work is always a great thing, and we're going to help her out as best way we can here on this show.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to take a really quick break. We're going to talk about some other stuff that's happening in the sports world this week, including some major injuries and also too some other some media news too that we'll have coming up here. So Second Seed Sports on Sports Zone Chicago with myself, Lakeena McGee, and Sidney Brown. We'll be right back.
I just heard my favorite band is in town. I'd love to get good seats, but everywhere I've looked, the ticket sites have crazy service fees.
Haven't you heard of TixSplits?
Who?
TixSplits. They don't gouge you with crazy fees. The price they advertise is the price you pay, plus a small delivery fee.
Never pay service fees again. Go to TixSplits.com today. TixSplits.com. Guaranteed seats, low prices. That's TixSplits.com. Every ticket, every venue, everywhere.
And welcome back to Second City Sports here on Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, I'm Lakeena McGee along with Sidney Brown. Our last segment, show's gone by so quick, Sid. I mean, it's been crazy.
Yeah, so that's what happens when you're having fun. Time flies, and it flies by fast.
All right, we'll get to some of the other news here. Going to do this rapid fire. So one of the top goalies in the last decade has announced his retirement. Henrik Lundqvist, formerly of the New York Rangers, has called it a career after 15 seasons. Of course, various health issues so it kept him from playing last year. He's a 5-time All-Star and won the Vezina Trophy as the league's top goalie in 2012. He went to the Capitals, but then he couldn't play because he had to undergo open heart surgery. What do you think? Having a great career, playing 887 games, excuse me, 459 of them, which is about 90, just under 92%, a 2.43 goal against average, and 64 career shutouts. He is the Rangers, franchise's top leader, still all-time leader in all of those categories I just mentioned, Sid. What do you think of his career? I think, look, not to mention, me being sort of the lady here, I'm going to be, honest, very probably one of those handsome players, the good-looking players. I'm not, look, I'm not afraid. Look, I'm single. I'm straight. I'm not afraid to admit that. So that he's a very handsome man. He's happily married though to a really great lady. So I'm not, no, I'm not mad at that. But yeah, so what do you think about his hockey career?
Yeah, don't apologize. You're just being yourself. But going back to his career, he's had a great career. He should be a first ballot Hall of Famer in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Toronto should be knocking on his door pretty soon. He was the New York Rangers, even when they made those Stanley Cup runs in 2014 when they lost to the LA Kings. Of course, he was up there as one of the top 5 goalies in the league at the time with himself, Corey Crawford, who had a great 2013, and John DeQuick, who won a couple of cups with the LA Kings, and Tuukka Rask. So Lundqvist was up there with those goalies for that time period. It was just so sad that he couldn't get a Stanley Cup. But regardless, he still had a heck of a career. He was the New York Rangers. Around that time, they was trying to make those Stanley Cup runs. I know they fell short in 2012, losing to the New Jersey Devils, their tri-state rivals. As I mentioned, they lost to the Kings in 2014 in 5 games. But the Rangers had a couple of chances to knock on the door and at least get one cup from Mr. Lundqvist. They just couldn't make it happen. I know you had Pittsburgh in the way at the time. Boston was still hanging around at the time as well. So the Rangers had a tough go. But I just wish that Lundqvist had a Stanley Cup ring on his resume. Now, does it negate his career? Obviously not. Let's not give him the Charles Barkley treatment. But he's had a heck of a career, and whatever he wants to do with the rest of his life, he's gonna do it. So he's a first ballot Hall of Famer in the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto, and so he was one of the best during his era. So he should be commended on the great career. 2 thumbs up from yours truly, if you can see it. thumbs.
Also let his name of Sweden to the 06 gold medal in his Turin Winter Olympics. So definitely, shout out to him there. Also, one of the in the top 20 in a lot of categories when it comes to goalies. 6th in wins, 7th in saves, 8th in games played, 9th in starts, 9th, in all time on the ice. Which is a lot. I'm not even going to try to say that number, but also 17th in shutouts, which, considering some of the the top goalies that we've seen prior, though, that's actually a pretty good stat. So definitely a first ballot Hall of Fame. We'll see if he does television too. So he does a great personality. So we'll see if he decides to do TV. Some NBA signings to talk about here. Joel Embiid has a new contract, a 4-year, 196 supermax deal to stay with the Sixers. What do you think? I think he's definitely deserving of it. Even with the various injuries, he's definitely right there. With right up there with some of the top players. Could have won the MVP too last season had it not been for those injuries. So, what do you think about his new deal?
Yeah, he deserves it. And like you said, Lakeena, despite the injuries, he was a front runner for MVP. If it wasn't for those 20 games that he missed last season, but he is that franchise. Philadelphia rewarded him with a great contract. Hopefully, Mr. Embiid will stay healthy for the rest of his career, and hopefully Philadelphia can break through, at least get to the finals, and perhaps get a championship. You have the right head coach as of now in Doc Rivers. The question is, what will they do with Ben Simmons? Can they get a fair deal for him? Who knows? But if Mr. Simmons is not traded by the time this next season starts, there could be some issues. But going back to Mr. Embiid, he is your foundation. He is the centerpiece. If he stays healthy, Philadelphia can go places. But if he's not healthy, as we've seen throughout these last few years, Philadelphia doesn't go anywhere. So this was a no-brainer here to give Joel this big contract.
Well, and also too, I always say good luck trying to find somebody, a taker for Ben Simmons, because that that contract, but also too, do you want to take a chance now with, he is young, still young, he's still in his early 20s, but even still, I mean, do you really want to kind of deal with having him to, ask him to develop a jump shot, work with his free throws? I mean, come on, it seems a little bit weird at this point.
Yeah, as we say all the time, Lakeena, in any sport, and particularly in the NBA, will you get fair value for superstars, especially with those large contracts? It's so hard to do. Will you get a third team involved? Who knows? Maybe Philadelphia's tried that. Who knows? But we'll see what happens with this Ben Simmons drama.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely a drama indeed. What else? What else can we talk about here? Some NBA execs said that the Bulls trading for DeMar DeRozan was the worst move in the offseason so far. Please. And they also
we started preseason. Yeah, we started hearing this nonsense already.
I know, and they actually voted Kyle Lowry's signing with the trading with the Heat, I should say, as the top move. So you gotta think, hello, Mr. Agenda, whoever thought of that. But it's just absurd that they it's just absurd that people would do that. And also no respect either. The NBA season, for television will be announced in about 20 minutes from now at the top of the hour. The Bulls not getting a lot of love. They were shut out of the opening week tip-off, and also for both TNT and ABC and ESPN, and they were shut out also too of the Christmas Day games, really. But we do know is that they do. I mean, it's just silly that they're not getting any respect, and this team will be better. And right now, I'm sure they will get some nationally televised games, but come on, no Christmas game. Yeah, but still, no Christmas games, no opening week games. I mean, come on, really?
Yeah, like you said, the Bulls will have to earn their keep, as you know, Lakeena. As a team progresses, a team that comes out of nowhere, they start winning. The league will put them on national television more often. Now, did I think the Bulls deserved a Christmas Day game? No. Opening week, perhaps you can make an argument for that. Christmas Day, no. But like you said, Lakeena, as of right now, the hype is back at the UC. You have Zach LaVine along with DeMar DeRozan and Lonzo Ball. Of course, Alex Caruso as your defensive specialist. Your energizer coming off the bench as your defensive specialist. So things are looking up for the Bulls right now. Like you mentioned, it's going to be interesting to see how many national televised games that the Bulls will receive this year. It's going to be more than one. It's probably going to be more than 5 for sure. I say maybe between 10 and 15. Maybe this me being a little bit optimistic, but at least 10 to 15. This year, not out of 82. That's too much. Not too much to ask. Because the league, just like the NFL, even though the NFL want to make us look like fools, they don't flex these games. Like I said, the NBA has no problem flexing some of these national television appearances. So maybe between 10 and 15 games for the Bulls on national television if they decide to get good, or else for surprising people and they hang around the top 2, top 3 spot, they'll get on a little bit more. Trust me.
We'll see. You'll just go through the Christmas Day games. You got Hawks and Knicks, starting right off on Christmas morning at noon Eastern time. That's 11 a.m. our time on ESPN. What do you think about that matchup?
That's a great matchup. It was a very good first round series last year. If you were an Atlanta Hawks fan, it was a good series to watch. If you're an NBA fan, Trae Young, I think this is his first Christmas Day game.
Yep,
so we saw what he did to the we saw what he did to the Knicks in the playoffs last year. Like I said before, during that time, he's this generation's Reggie Miller. It was gonna be a whole lot of booing and some other stuff on that day. So I'm really looking forward to that one. Can he put up a 50 piece on Christmas Day? Now that'll be a storyline.
Yeah, I'll also definitely put on a show, for Christmas, for the Christmas Day audience.
Yeah, put up a 50 piece in MSG.
Yeah. Next up, we got the Bucks and Celtics. That's about 1:30 our time, 2:30 Eastern time. What do you think about that matchup?
We'll see how Boston looks. I know they're going through a transition with Brad Stevens, now former head coach, now team executive. They got rid of Kemba Walker. I know Jason Tatum is the face of that franchise now. I know Jaylen Brown's back, but who else are you going to sell for the Boston Celtics? Of course, Milwaukee, they're the defending champs. It's all about the Greek Freak and Chris Middleton. So it's still a good, respectable matchup as the second game on Christmas Day.
Yeah, it should be a fun one there also, but this one should be a whole lot of fun. The next one, it looks like this sort of like a late afternoon game on ABC at 4:00 our time. That's 5 Eastern time. You got Suns and Warriors. That should be a fun one. CP3, you got Booker, you got Ayton, and fresh off of. We'll see how hungry they are. We'll see how they look as they after their trip to the finals. You got Clay. Clay's going to be back for the Warriors. Steph, and Draymond.
Please stay healthy, Clay. Please stay healthy.
Yeah, that should be a fun one there. What do you think about that matchup?
Just like surely, hopefully the Atlanta-New York game is good. That second game, if Milwaukee and Boston, if that game should get out of hand, you could pop in a movie or just play video games or use Milwaukee and Boston as a nap. Wake me up at 4:00 to watch Suns and Warriors. Hopefully both teams will have the superstars stay healthy. If that's the case, I'll be looking forward to that one.
That should be a lot of fun. Also, too, you get after that game, you got probably sort of like the capper here, and I think this is probably what you're really looking at here. This will actually be simulcast on both ABC and ESPN at 8 Eastern time at 7:00 our time. You got Nets and Lakers. Well, hopefully everyone stays healthy. That way you can see LeBron, AD, Westbrook, Carmelo, and the rest of the Lakers against KD, Kyrie, Harden, and the Nets. That should be a fun one. Already people are already time to see NBA Finals preview, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the league got it right on this one, as you mentioned, as I mentioned for the Suns and Warriors matchup. Hopefully, all the superstars stay healthy. If that's the case, hopefully we can witness a classic game.
Absolutely, and the nightcap, which will be after that game, this will be an ABC game. We got the Mavs and the Jazz. Should be interesting. I mean, you got the middle tier teams. You'll see how everyone's look. Will somebody be there to help out Luka? That's sort of the number one thing. He got his money, but will somebody be there to help him out? Also, too, you got of course Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. That should be an interesting one. Sort of interesting way to cap off Christmas night for the NBA.
Now, think about this, Lakeena. I heard an interesting point. I was watching Colin Cowherd's radio show earlier this week, and his colleague Nick Wright, who co-hosts First Things First on FS1 a few hours before Colin's show, he brought up a good point. Yeah, the last game is Denver at Utah. Of course, Dallas at Utah. Sorry,
Dallas at Utah. Yeah,
Dallas. I'll bring up Denver in just a moment, but. Why is Utah getting the Christmas Day game? And this is paraphrasing what Nick Wright said. He said, Nikolai Jokic, who's the defending regular season MVP. I get why Dallas and Luka. I like Luka just like everybody else. But why is Utah getting the Christmas Day game? And Nick Wright brought up an interesting question. When was the last time a defending MVP did not play on Christmas the following season? And if you could look this up, Lakeena, real quick, we're doing this live on Sports Zone Chicago. You're listening to Second City Sports. Sid Lakeena here with you. If you could look this up real quick via the Google machine, when was the last time the defending regular season MVP did not play on Christmas Day last year? I was thinking of a couple offhand. The 93-94 season, the year Michael Jordan didn't play. I know the Bulls in Orlando played on Christmas night. Tony Kukoc hit the second game winner of his career that game. I don't think that Phoenix Suns played on Christmas Day that year. That's technically December of 93. Remember, Charles Barkley won the MVP the year before. And I want to say December of 97, that was the 97-98 season. Of course, the Bulls and the Heat played on Christmas night at the UC. The Bulls won that one as part of their sixth and last championship during that season. I don't think Utah played on Christmas Day either. Remember, Karl Malone won the MVP the season before. If you could look those up real quick. Those two names just popped up in my head.
Jokic is the first. He is the first to I'm looking right at it. Yeah, this is he is the first reigning MVP to not be playing on Christmas Day. Because remember, they started doing these Christmas Day games around the early 2000s or the late 90s, early 2000s. That was when it sort of kind of became this big thing. So it really didn't it wasn't until ABC and ESPN took over where they kind of had this, quintuple header of games. So that's probably where it all started. And yeah, it's sort of weird that
You should, because like I said, if you can look this up real quick, this Christmas Day, December of '93, and Christmas Day, December of '97. Did Karl Malone and Charles Barkley play on those days? Yeah, Lakeena's looking up information here quickly.
90 what? 90? You said 98?
Yeah, December of 1997.
Okay.
Yeah, December 25th, 1997. Did the Utah Jazz play on that day?
Okay, let me see here. I see, Bulls and Heat. Wait, hold on. Wait, that's a 97. I see Christmas. Okay, yeah, I see. Okay, I see Miami, and that's the only game I see. Hold on. Okay, it says Utah. Yeah, Utah played for the first. Oh yeah, because that was actually the last time they played on Christmas Day. It was '97 in Utah. So it's actually going to be.
I was wrong. Yeah. Okay, so I was wrong with Karl Malone. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so they did play. Who did they play on Christmas Day that year?
Hold on, what did he see here? You gotta love Google, folks. We're doing this live.
We're doing this live.
It doesn't say who they played that day. Nope, I don't. What I'm reading, I'm sure somebody will bring it up. Comment here if you guys know the last time that Utah played, but this is actually going to be the first time Utah has had a Christmas Day game since '97. So
okay, and December of 1993, that was part of the '93-'94 season. As we mentioned, Charles Barkley was the defending regular season MVP from the '92-'93 season. Did Phoenix play on Christmas Day? I know, like as I mentioned before, the Bulls in Orlando did. Tony Kukoc hit the game winner on that night, right? So Phoenix did play on Christmas Day in '93.
Hold on, let me see. Christmas Day, '93. It's weird that some of these places are going here. Christmas Day. Yeah, that's the only game I see. So yeah, they did not. Yeah, so the Suns did not play that year on Christmas. So yeah, the only game that's popping up is the Magic and the Bulls, and we all know what happened there. That was a nationally televised game. So
that's it. In those days.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all they had. That was only the whole game. That was only the only game. So.
As far as we know, So as I said, those are the two names that popped up for me, because especially during the '90s when NBC had those games, of course, except for the year that Jordan came back, the '95-'96 season. That was the only, of course, that was the in the season that he came back later on that year, '94-'95. Those are the only 2 years when he played. I'm talking about Michael Jordan, that did not play on Christmas Day. But during those championship runs, the Bulls were always the marquee game on Christmas night on NBC.
Yeah, those are really good games. Also, there was only like 1 or 2 games. I think way back when there was only like 1 game on Christmas Day. If that's now we're up to like 5.
5, yeah. Some people. I heard a caller on one of those national. Oh no, it was a local show, not in Chicago, but I think somewhere on the West Coast. Excuse me. And this caller brought this up. I wanted to ask you. Now we're talking about these NBA Christmas Day games. This caller said to this host, because he thought that there was too many games on Christmas Day. We know why the league does it, which me personally I don't have a problem with. But this caller brought it up. You should have 2 games on Christmas Eve and then 3 games on Christmas Day. What do you think about that? I'll let you answer first before I give my answer.
Didn't they used to do that though back in the day? Didn't they used to have 2, like 1 or 2 Christmas Eve? Or they didn't. Oh, I don't know why, but my mind's starting to go here. But yeah, I mean, it would be interesting though if they did do like maybe 2 Christmas. But remember, the whole league's off on Christmas Eve, so I guess that's probably why they do it, is because they want to give folks, players and coaches an extra time to be with their families, because some of them are not going to be home for Christmas, because they're going to be playing the games. That's probably why they do it. So that's probably why they do it.
Yeah, I thought about that idea that caller brought up. I said that's not a bad idea, but like you said, especially those teams that are playing on Christmas Day, you give them Christmas Eve off to spend time with their families, as you mentioned. Because, and let's be honest too, Lakeena, let's just say couple of those games are duds. There'll be extra, and plus people are spending time with their families anyway. So if you're going to watch sports, I know sometimes in the NFL, like they did, I believe, last year or the season before. I know the Saints played the Vikings on Christmas Day. It just happens that the NFL played on Christmas Day. But I think it was a great idea from that caller. But like you mentioned, Lakeena, the NBA wants to be on your conscience, on your television screen from morning to night. And so I don't think they should change it. It was a great idea, but business-wise, I don't think they'll change it. Like you said, Lakeena, when we were growing up, it was one, and then when NBC picked up the package prior to 1990-91 season, over the years, they started to put 2 games on at Christmas. Now this is whole big bonanza with 5 games going on all day and all night. I think that they did that because especially on Christmas Eve, we're all spending time with our loved ones, friends, and family. And if you have to do that on Christmas Day, you can escape and watch some basketball.
Exactly. So I think that's probably why. That's
Which
not going to
makes sense.
change. Yeah, that's not going to change anytime soon. A couple of quick, tennis notes. Both Rafa Nadal and Roger Federer have announced within the last week that they're taking the rest of the year off due to injuries. Roger is, taking, had knee surgery, so he's taking the rest of the year off. And also, too, just this morning, Rafa Nadal has, announced on his social media that he's taking the rest of the year off to recover from foot surgery. So no Rafa nor Fed at the U.S. Open. So that opens the door for Novak Djokovic, who's kind of going through his own rest break. So, it might be the end of an era, but I hope they can both recover. But Fed's like 40 now, so that might be it for him. We'll see if Rafa can bounce back. But again, the U.S. Open might be there for the taking for Djokovic now that he's taking a couple of weeks off. I know he's going to play in one of the warm-up tournaments, U.S. Open tournaments next week, I believe he said. So we'll see, but could be the end of an era in tennis. So I don't know. What do you think, Sid? I know you watch a little bit of tennis too for those 3 top guys.
I worry about the women's side for the U.S. Open. Not to go back a little bit, but I remember when Venus and Serena were face off a couple times during the final. Of course, that's one of the reasons why the U.S. tennis is on in prime time. But will Serena compete this year? Will Venus compete this year in this tournament? And what about some of the other top women in the tennis tournament? Will Naomi Osaka compete in it this year? I don't know, but hopefully all of those superstars from the ladies side will compete in it. Let's be honest with you, not to be silly here, but that's the real reason why I watch tennis, especially the U.S. Open.
I believe Rena's actually got a wild card, so because she has a couple of these, so I think she did have she did get a wild card for one of the U.S. Open, so which is great to see. And when it was actually nice to see Naomi back. I know she lost. She beat Coco Gauff in one of the warm up tournament. I think it's in Montreal, if I'm not mistaken. That tournament, that warm up tournament for the U.S. Open. But I think she did lose in the last round too. Oh, it's Cincinnati. All right, in Cincinnati, that's the Western and Southern Open. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like, it's always a fun, experience, the U.S. Open. And I know that ESPN will have wall-to-wall coverage of it in their network. So, we'll see if an American can kind of make a, sort of try to make a run, Tiafoe, Jack Sox, those guys. Hopefully they can make a go at it to actually at least make things interesting for the men's side. But it looks like it's going to be Djokovic and Thiem. Thiem, remember, is the defending champion. So for the men, so I'm sure he's not going to want to relinquish that. So should be a fun one there, next week at the U.S. Open. A couple of weeks, I should say. But yeah, should be a fun. Anything else that comes to mind for you before we sign off?
I'm just looking forward to this weekend series. Going back to baseball for our Chicago White Sox. As I said before, this is an important series. It's not a do or die series, but it's a big series to carry the momentum from the Oakland series, create more momentum, and sustain that confidence that you can, as a White Sox, you can beat good teams. Tampa Bay, you're 3.5 or 4 games behind them in the win column as far as the best record in the American League. Tampa Bay has 75. The White Sox have 71. If you can take 2 out of 3, I would prefer a sweep several shares as a fan, but realistically, looking at this, if you can take 2 out of 3, that'll be great before you head to Toronto for 4 big games next week. Even though Toronto is slipping, but they're still a dangerous team, especially offensively. So if you take 2 out of 3 in Tampa, perhaps get a split in Toronto, you'll be happy as a Sox fan. And quick note, I believe he'll return this weekend. I believe if not early next week. Jason Benetti, who called the USA baseball games for NBC during the Olympics. He's the White Sox lead TV announcer. He's supposed to be returning this weekend, if not early next week. He was battling COVID. He's doing well. He put out a tweet early this week telling fans and colleagues that he's doing fine. So we're looking forward to having Mr. Bernetti back in the TV booth very soon, calling games with Steve Stone. I know that Mike Monaco, who does substitute work for Nessa and the AC Network, of course, Len Casper, who's the radio voice for the White Sox, he's been doing TV, filling in for Bernetti over these last couple of weeks. So continue to recover, get well soon, Mr. Bernetti. We can't wait to hear and see you back in the TV booth soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And Polanco's doing a great, Mike Monaco, I should say. I think that's his name. He's been doing a great job. So, he's one of the top young, rising stars in the broadcast industry. That's why, I can see why the White Sox picked him to kind of to sub in for Jason. But it's going to be great to see Jason back though too, even though Mike has done a great job. For me, look, I think like I said, the baseball, football, I'll check out some of the games. I'll check out, Bears and Bills tomorrow. Afternoon. That's a noon game, so should be fun. It'll be broadcast locally, if not on the NFL Network, if you have it. So that should be fun. And also, too, if you guys like the Little League World Series that's going on right now as we speak, remember this year, for the first time since 1975, there will be no international teams because of the pandemic. These are all U.S. teams, 16 teams from the U.S., all across the country, so they're represented. So a nice opportunity for those teams, to kind of, who probably wouldn't have a chance if it had been a regular year. So if you guys like the Little League World Series, check it out.
Yeah, Jackie Robinson's story was a nice story. It seems like it was a long time ago, especially how that story ended, but I'll leave it there.
Well, the good news is Ed Howard's doing.
I'll leave the drama part of it out of it, but I'm still proud of those young men and head coach Darryl Butler. I'm proud of those people. Yeah,
and also Ed Howard too is doing pretty well down there in the minors for the Cubs. So hopefully we might see him up, with the big leagues probably. Probably not this year coming up, when the roster is expanded, but definitely next season we probably might be seeing him. So on that note, you follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at CK80. Once again, at CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. You can follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at Sports Zone Chicago, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can catch all this show, Second City Sports, along with our other live shows, and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. You can catch the replays and our live shows there as well. Also, our audio version of this podcast, Second City Sports, can be found at War on Anchor. That's WARR on Anchor. Just type in that in your search engine boxes on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And you better follow War Media on our all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at WARR Media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
All right. Also want to thank, Randy Cross and Suzie Hunter for joining us today. We'll definitely have, you can follow, Sports Zone Chicago, both on Facebook and YouTube, to get the replays of the shows if you miss them. Why are you guys watching us live? Well, it's okay. Look, things happen. But look, you can watch also you can watch, of course, listen to the audio version on War Media. So we're still out there, guys. If you miss us watching us, if you can't watch us, if you have friends who can't watch us, you can still listen to us on War Media. So have a great weekend, everyone. And, you too, Armando, Armando told us, Laura Jr., feel free to comment on our Facebook page anytime, also on the YouTube channel as well. So for Sid, I'm Lakeena. This is Second City Sports, on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Monday.
Bears and Go Sox till Monday. Holla!
Stay safe, everybody. Stay safe, everyone. If you're not going to get the vaccine, wear your mask.